He used his jab. Mike could not have done anything different. And on that night, Buster Douglas, that version of Buster Douglas, one night only, that version of Buster Douglas beats Mike Tyson, in my opinion, 10 of 10 times. Yo, this is Tribe with Yo Tribe Sports Bag. What is Yo Tribe Sports Bag? I'm going to try to touch on as many sports as I believe people are interested in. So from boxing to baseball to football to basketball, maybe even a little tennis, all of those things that are sports, and if it's big news, I will be dropping it. So look forward to Yo Tribe Sports Bag coming at you. And because of the way things move in the sports world, it doesn't necessarily mean there will be a specific day in which I have drops. I may do one drop, I may do two drops, I may do 3 drops a week, maybe 3 drops a day, depending on how the sports news is going. Anyway, for this first episode, we're going to talk about boxing. Mike Tyson, of course, you saw the thumbnail. You're interested in what I have to say and how I'm going to lay it out. And here it is. We're going to talk about what if Mike Tyson was ready against Buster Douglas. This is one of the most contentious stories in probably the last 40 years of boxing. Mike wasn't in shape, says many, but on the other side, he could not have taken such a beating like he did if he were not in shape. He was in some shape. Now, what was going on in his head might have been another thing, but nevertheless, that's why I'm here, and I'm going to try to get it done in about 10 minutes or less. So let's get to the point. Before I get to that point, make sure you subscribe to this channel. The only way to find out how I'm putting drops down is to subscribe to this channel, pick all with your alarm bell, and you'll get every drop as I drop them, because as I said, there isn't any specific day in which I will be able to do this depending on what's going on in the world of sports. But let's get on to the business at hand. We all know Mike Tyson is not even arguably, he's definitely one of the greatest heavyweights, among the greatest heavyweights of all time. One of the most exciting boxers ever. There's no question about that. He came through like a meteor, cleaned up the heavyweight division pretty much after Larry Holmes, and now is an icon in other places outside of sports. He's teetering on that level of Muhammad Ali's popularity. Now, of course, there's social media now, but either way, Mike Tyson is that guy. He had speed, he had power, he had all of the things you wanted. He was short, so it was David versus Goliath, and he turned out to be the Goliath in this game. As far as his quickness and athleticism, from the waist down, he's probably arguably the fastest heavyweight ever from the waist down in terms of getting to certain points, in terms of changing the angle at an instant pace, and with his fast hands taking care of business from there. And with the power that came from his speed and the natural power that he had, we saw the clips, and we've been watching those clips for years. That's what's drawn us to Mike Tyson. Anyway, he came along during a weak time during the heavyweight division. As I mentioned, Larry Holmes was already gone. Michael Spinks was the new heavyweight champion, but Michael Spinks was the light heavyweight who's now the heavyweight champion, and he wasn't really getting the respect he deserved. And with Mike's meteoric rise, but after not making the '84 Olympic team, but making it as an alternate, he moved on, started his pro career, and he was absolutely dominant, becoming the youngest heavyweight champion in the world when he beat Trevor Berbick for the WBC title. And his path seems like it was going to be unimpeded based on the talent that was available and based on just his overall skill set. I mean, if you go back to the types of fighters he fought, they probably weren't household names. Mitch Blood Green, Marvis Frazier had a name because his father had a name, and Terrell Biggs, Frank Bruno, Jose Revolta, he had those guys. But the fight before he fought Buster Douglas, it was against Carl the Truth Williams. When he knocked Carl the Truth Williams out in the first round, many were just pretty much adding to the legacy of him being unbeatable. In fact, Boxing Illustrated, I believe, had a picture of him on the front and who's going to beat Mike Tyson, pretty much, with a little person in the shadow in the background, about a 12-year-old kid saying, one day I'm going to beat Mike Tyson. So at the time, that's what people thought. They thought that whoever was going to beat him was so young at the time that there was just no one in the future who was going to be able to beat him. Anyway, fast forward, after Carl the Truth, he goes to Japan, takes on James Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas, a fighter who had so much potential but never had lived up to it. You know, he had the pedigree. His father, Dynamite, Billy Douglas, was a boxer once upon a time. And, you know, coming from Ohio runs boxing, as they say. So he comes from a nice stock. He was an athlete, played basketball once upon a time. 6'4", and at that night he fought Mike Tyson, 231 pounds with an 81-inch reach, and the incentive of his mom passing away being his motivating factor. He goes in the ring, absolutely motivated, destroys Mike, with no one ever thinking about this being a possibility. He beats Mike very badly over the course of 10 rounds. Yes, he got knocked down in the 8th round. And if you're a huge Mike Tyson fan, you go to the long count, and there's another story for another day with that, because he was completely clear-headed when he had gone down. Nevertheless, the one thing I thought about in this fight, or before this fight, I saw Larry Holmes fight Mike Tyson. And in the same round in which Larry Holmes was knocked out, which is the 4th round, for the first 20 seconds or so, he got on his toes and he was able to hit Mike, and Mike legitimately tried to get to him, but couldn't necessarily get to him. And I thought about it for a flash. I was like, you know what? If a younger person can do that for the long term, Mike's going to have problems. I didn't say Mike was going to lose. I just thought he was going to have problems. Little did anyone know that a motivated Buster Douglas fit the bill. He was younger. He came in motivated. He's 6'4". He came in at his best weight of 231 pounds. He had an 81-inch reach, absolutely athletic, and on that night, he was on point. He put it all together. All of the pedigree, all of the stories, all of the things people said about Buster became true that night. He used his jab. Mike could not have done anything different. And on that night, Buster Douglas, that version of Buster Douglas, one night only, that version of Buster Douglas beats Mike Tyson, in my opinion, 10 of 10 times. Anytime you have a boxer who's on top of his game, knows how to use his physical gifts, a 6'4", 231-pound boxer on his game with an 81-inch reach should beat a 5'11", 215 to 220-pound boxer with a 72-inch reach. A good big man being a good little man, and that's what it was that night. I don't believe there's anything Mike could have done differently against Buster Douglas to change the outcome. Now, I'm sure you all think differently, or there's some people who may agree with me. If so, go to the comments, let me know what you think about it, because I stick by what I said. I saw the fight, and what was Mike going to do? Charge a little faster and let the Buster continue triple, jab him, a half step, come with the right hand? What was he going to do? Step to the side and change his angle? When you have a 6'4" guy who's that athletic, he can adjust. And when you have a jab that effective, that's what it's for, keeping you off balance. And when a 6'4" boxer wants to keep you off balance, he'll keep you off balance, especially when he's on top of his game. So let me know, what do you think Mike Tyson could have done differently that night? Now, I know, you're going to talk about the power and all that. He still knocked him out in the 8th round, which is true. But that Buster, that night, on that day in Japan, that version beats Mike Tyson 10 out of 10 times. This is Tribe with Yo Tribe Sports Bag. Let me know what's going on in the comments. Leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, do all of those YouTube things. Help this algorithm out, help me out. This is Yo Tribe Sports Bag. We're going to hit them all up, not just boxing, but all of the other sports as well. See you next time.